Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Final session for this marathon on the topic of respect. And we're going to go into some details this evening to wrap up everything. So, nice graphic, architecture of respect, form, essence, rules, purpose. We spent some time yesterday on the form versus essence and what's the purpose of the practice of bhakti. So now we're going to take a look at some further details resting upon the writings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Shikshamrita, Chaitanya Shikshamrita. And he describes in this writing, there are 5 mistakes in relationships that can cause an offense. Now, it's not necessarily in and of themselves an offense, but it can create an atmosphere or a circumstance where offense is really easy, 1, 2, 3, easy, leading to disharmony, a sense of impurity in our spiritual society. So it's relevant for everybody. Just as a deity is a person, and we can do things that are not what should be done in deity worship, we can also do things in relationships with humans, our peers and others. So we should know what those things are so we don't mess up. So this is Chaitanya Shikshamrita, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings, where the authority that we're drawing upon is that. Can you see from over there? Come on. You can see this? You can. You got a mirror system or what's going on? Okay. Neglect is restricting ourselves to do a minimum when we're thinking this will do. So in relationships with others, superficial and cursory attitude or behavior. There's someone that we love, we want to do as much as possible, everything we can do. However, when we restrict extending ourselves to the minimum, even though such negligence may seem small, it is still a mild form of disrespect, because we already discussed some time back, disrespect is an offense. The failure to offer respect is disrespect, which is an offense. So we want to, whatever we can do, we want to not make offense. So neglect. And then there's a connection between laziness and neglect. Restricting oneself to the minimum is an offense that arises from laziness. There's the cause and the effect. Laziness leads to neglect, which eventually results in disrespect. When we show disrespect to a person, we fail to understand their position. You can see it the opposite. By proper respect to another person, we can begin to at least get an idea of what their position is. The lack of discernment creates a slightly greater offense. So it has this escalating effect. Impurity or tidiness. So the image at the top is, something that's messy, and the image at the bottom is something that's neat and tidy. Being carelessly inaccurate or untidy reflects a lack of respect. Now think about language when you're communicating with others and you're not careful with how you say what you want to say, and you say it carelessly or inaccurately, and some people can misunderstand what you mean because you're not really clear what you mean, or you're not expressing in clear ways, or doing same actions and words, and remaining untidy. Untidy. In the spiritual context, appearing unclean and being loose in dealings is offensive. Say the opposite. Cleanliness is a form of offering. It's true in deity worship. That was one of the starting points, but it's also relationships with others. Not just, in your home, but, all kinds of circumstances where you're in the association of devotees specifically. Then one of my godbrothers repeated something like always: first dress, then address. You dress properly, especially when you're called upon to speak, but dress properly. And it's a form of respect to the audience and respect of others. In Vedic society, for example, a wife maintains cleanliness and beauty specifically for her husband as an expression of dedication. The opposite, to appear in an unclean form before someone we value, is a type of disrespect. So we don't want to do that. We want to be tidy and neat and clean and proper to a degree at least. Now there's more formal and less formal, there's informal, but the principle is what's being conveyed here by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Lack of determination. No, lack of determination can have its application in many, many ways, but this is specific to relationships. Often we don't want to step beyond our own habits. We might feel, I don't have enough strength, or I can't. It means I won't. But a relationship with another person requires a certain degree of letting go of what your boundaries are. You feel you could, should, would, and you do a little bit more than that, because if a relationship or when a relationship is important to you, that's what you do. You put your own conditioning to the side and you do that which is appropriate. If I constantly think about myself, that's the image on the left side, if my interests are always first, then I won't have the determination to intentionally do something for another person. So the theme of this whole chapter from 29, we're going to, before we're done this evening, we're going to be discussing the final verse of chapter 29. It's a very nice verse. At length we'll be discussing it. But it's this gesture of extending oneself to others with respect as the antidote for the covering of envy. So to do something for another person, there may be a little discomfort or something that's other than what you might otherwise normally, in conditioned way do. So you do that. A little flexibility. And that was one of the principles that we heard in, for example, the application of Krishna resolving the conflict between Yudhisthira and Arjuna, which was, a very unusual kind of conflict, organized by Krishna or orchestrated by Krishna or impelled by Krishna. So he showed a lot of flexibility in how he should and they should conduct themselves for the benefit of the other person. And then the fifth of these list of five, though this list is behaviors or circumstances within oneself that can be a cause of pride, a cause of offense. So pride, praising oneself in the presence of others. We heard this specifically when Krishna instructed Arjuna, and when Arjuna did, sure enough, he felt terrible, praising himself in front of Yudhisthira, which was killing himself, because he wanted to kill himself. So don't kill yourself. Just praise yourself in front of somebody else, a superior in particular. Tantamount to spiritual suicide. Pride blinds us. So we spent a fair amount of time on these two, pride and envy, and they're like brother and sister from the same mother. Ignorance. False ego. We cannot see the true position of others if we're focused on our own glory. Pride. So now this whole section, this whole after evening session, is details about Vaishnava etiquette and dealing with the proper positioning of respect. So with speech, we touched on this a few times. Here's the whole Sanskrit. Let's say it together. It's a nice verse. Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat ma bruyat satyam apriyam priyam cha naratam bruyat esha dharma sanatana. So esha dharma sanatana. This is the eternal principle from Madhu Samhita. And the first one is often quoted. The next one is less often quoted, but also very important. The third one is rarely quoted, but it's also very important. Speak truthfully. Satyam bruyat. Speak palatably. Priyam bruyat. Do not speak unpalatable truths. I just got to speak the truth. You're a blah, rah, 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 rah. I had to say it because it's true. Now, it may not be so gross, but, sometimes that's the spirit behind speaking unpalatably. Although, there may be some truth in what is being said. A person should not speak an unpleasant truth. But the second part, in no circumstance should you tell a pleasant lie. That is the eternal law, all three parts, and eternal truth. We must avoid the trap of flattery, na, annatam, where we speak falsely just to be agreeable. So don't tell lies. Even if it sounds, like you're trying to keep peace in a relationship. Don't try to create peace in a relationship by lying. Speak the truth. Speak the truth palatably. And don't speak unpalatable truths. So that's some boundaries. But we speak. So the graphic is on the one side, truth at the pan scale. Truth gets the weight. And on the right side, pleasant lies, it doesn't get much weight. Now, here, in this pleasant lie, here's a little story. It's a parable. It's not a scriptural story, but it's a once upon a time story. Once upon a time, there was a king who heard of a very qualified astrologer, and he asked the very qualified astrologer to read his horoscope. And so the qualified astrologer read his horoscope, and he told him what it says. Dear king, all your relatives will die before you, and you will bury them, which is what the horoscope said. And the king was very attached to his family members and his dear relatives, and you could see his face. He became really angry. Attached to his kin, he refused to believe the prediction and ordered the astrologer to be imprisoned. Not a happy ending. The astrologer spoke the truth, but it was a truth the recipient was unable to digest. It wasn't very palatable for him. So the king still wanted to have his astrology chart read, so he heard of another celebrated person, and the other celebrated person he called. He didn't say what he did with astrologer number one. He just consulted another one. The astrologer looked at the same horoscope, saw the same thing, that all the king's relatives would die before him. But this is what he said: "O king, you'll live a very long life. You'll live much longer than your relatives." And the king looked very happy. The king thought, what a good astrologer. And he gave him many gifts. And the astrologer was very happy because he followed that principle, the Manu Samhita principle. Communicating effectively requires sensitivity. Speaking blunt truth under the pretense of honesty often only arouses the false ego of the listener. We probably have had these experiences. We may not have had, like the litmus test to understand, hey, what's going on? But the principle is be sensitive with your speech. Be aware of how this sound vibration, these set of words, may impact the heart of the person who's hearing them. And then try your best, speak the truth in a way that's pleasing for the person to hear, like astrologer number 2 did. Now, is it possible sometimes for an unpleasant truth to speak, to be spoken? And who has the right to do that? So there's the Madhu Samhita law. Only a teacher, spiritual master, or authorized guide holds this authority. And otherwise, button your lip, or better to not speak. Before speaking, the speaker, the teacher, spiritual master, guide, needs to ask themselves, has this other person given me the permission to correct them? Without that consent, one shouldn't speak like that, even when is in the superior position. So it's two things. The relationship where consent is clear, and the superiority. And then when speaking, it's not speaking a lie, but if a truth cannot be spoken palatably and you lack authority, silence. Or say something that's true that may not be, the particular issue of something that's uncomfortable for the person to hear. And the reason why is the false ego will be inflamed if the sound vibration is unpalatable. Now, there's a very nice teaching. I'm sure you know the phrase that when an unexpected guest comes, Atiti Devo Bhava. You all know this because you're all from India. Those of us from America, we don't know this at all. But those of you from India, you're all from India. Your younger generation people, listen carefully. Take your notes on this one, not just in your notebook about your homework for tomorrow. You two boys in the front row, pay attention. This is it's a principle. Supposing someone comes to your home unexpectedly, a guest, just anybody, what do? Yeah, you treat them like, the principle is, you see on the screen, treat them as God. So here's a little story. And it's not just a once upon a time story. It's something that happened within the past number of years. So one ISKCON sannyasi was in India, and he was planning to do some travel and visit some holy places in India. So he had an assistant, and he wasn't Indian. He and his assistant were from the European part of the world, and there was somebody with them as kind of like a guide that was from India. And they had been traveling in car, traveling to get to where they're going, and they became fatigued, and they became hungry, and so they were starting to think, what to do about prasadam. So the Indian guide said, I have a suggestion. Let's find a pujari, and pujaris are always very happy to receive guests, because he knows the principle. Atiti devo bhava. So how it happened, the sannyasi didn't know how it happened, but he found a pujari in a place where there wasn't an ISKCON temple. It was a Shiva temple. Pujari of a Shiva temple. He somehow contacted him and rang him up, and the pujari said, sure, come on over. Unexpected guest, Kijai. And so what happened when they arrived, this sannyasi was narrating this. He's like, wow, they treated us like God. First thing, there's like 6 or 7, family members and extended family. You know how that one goes. So he's a grihasta, pujari, and has family and friends or relatives that are part of the extended family. So they all stood there at the door of their home. This isn't it the temple? It's the door of their home. Folded palms, received them very nicely. Is everything all right? Is everything okay? Okay, good. Just checking. So they invited him in. All 3 of them. They had them sit down, and as soon as they sat down, they washed their feet. And after they washed their feet, while chanting mantras, they performed arti. Ringing the bell, and performed arti. And then they invited them to the lunch table. And at the lunch table, all the family members were engaged. None of them ate. They just watched and enjoyed and chanted mantras while they ate, reciting mantras and mantras and mantras. And 30 different preparations of their local dishes in Kerala was the place, Shiva temple in Kerala, you can imagine. And then afterwards, they gave them some certain items for mouth fresheners at the end of the meal, and then they sat them down and they washed their feet again. Washed their hands, pouring the water to wash their hands at the dinner table, and then sat them down and performed arti again. A second time. Second arti. And then came and brought them gifts. Chanting mantras while they gave them their gifts. And, imagine how these 3 devotees that they didn't know these people, the people didn't know them. But they treated them like saints or like God, as one is supposed to do. Cultured people, it's still present in some places in India. People are still cultured. No, generally people don't do all those items. But something that's according to one's nature and capacity and inclination, it's culture. Cultured people act in cultured way. The point of all this is to train our vision. When we learn how to treat others correctly, with energy, with respect, with service, we're reminded of the highest truth. And that highest truth is like a refrain for this whole chapter 29. Everyone is part of God. Now, just a little sharing. For the Chinese devotees, I made a commitment long ago, and we're now in Canto 11. It's this Srimad Bhagavatam overview. We call it flow, chapter by chapter, sections of chapters, and we're into chapter 11. Excuse me, Canto 11. And in the early part, starting with the second half of chapter 1 through chapter 5 of Canto 11, there's the Navayogendras. Who are the Navayogendras? There's sons of the 100 sons of Rishabdev. Of the 100 sons of Rishabdev, 9 of them became topmost devotees, like topmost devotees. He was a king, but they were not just brahmanas, but they were topmost Vaishnavas. And they came zooming through the air while King Nimi was engaged in a yajna, and King Nimi stopped his yajna when he saw these 9 celestial persons zooming in the air. It's a beautiful painting. And he stood up with folded palms and offered them prayers. And then he asked them 9 questions, because there are 9 of them, Navayogendras, and they each answered a different question. So one of those questions, the first question was, what's the goal of life? So, same as what Lord Chaitanya requested Ramananda Roy, the goal of life and how to achieve it. So, nice question. And then the second question is, what are the different statuses of different persons who should be offered respect, which is our topic. So if you're interested in our topic from Canto 11, you can start at the second half of Chapter 1 and the beginning part of Chapter 2 of Canto 11. Havi answers these questions in a number of verses. And he's saying the same things. The topmost person is one who sees everything in relation to the source of everything. They see it, they experience it, they feel it. They have that consciousness. It's not just a concept. It's something that they carry inside. And so there's symmetry between what Kapila Deva is teaching and what the 11th Canto Bhagavatam is teaching. Naturally so. Just for different circumstance, historical different circumstance. And then there's details and details of seeing everyone and everything as part of God. What does that look like? And what does it feel like? And how to for King Nimi, how to understand someone who's in that position. And then the other positions are also identified. So there's something about the art of receiving guests. There's unknown ones and there's known ones. And this, Vedic procedure of washing the feet and offering food and giving of contribution and giving gifts. The point is not how much or what is given, simply to give from the heart. And when it's given from the heart, it touches the heart. For both the giver and the receiver, it's a heart-to-heart exchange. There's a very nice teaching in Kapila Dev's Kapila Dev's teaching, chapter 25, where there is such a thing as a heart-to-heart relation between one soul and another soul. It's when super soul is at the center. They both persons see and feel the presence of super soul within one another, and that's a soul-to-soul relationship by his definition. So when hearts swing open, then you have a very genuine and moving and meaningful relationship. That's what we want in life, on this plane, and then connecting with the spiritual plane. By a lifestyle committed to gift giving, one truly experiences happiness. Why? Because we come closer to the soul by that culture. The gift is yes, it's to the person, But ultimately, the purpose of giving gifts to the person is pleasing the Supreme. He's pleased when he sees those kinds of exchanges. Not just, not the value of something, just the principle of something. And whatever I have, where did it come from? It came from the source of everything. So whatever I have, it belongs to the source of everything. So that whatever I have, let me give some portion of what I have, because that's what a loving exchange on this plane does. We connect with the spiritual plane, and Krishna is pleased by that exchange. And then on the horizontal plane, it makes our heart soft, it makes their heart soft. Naturally. And that's what we want. So now, going further, there's additional. This is for our Western culture. You're not Western people. You're Indian-born, most, and some of you are from Indian families born in America, but you're more Indianized than Americanized, at least presently. Let's see what happens over time. So there's details about etiquette and respect. We should sit to the left of a senior to show respect and to avoid being on the receiving end of their anger. Now, it's a cultural thing. Anger may be shown from the right side. So don't sit on the right side. Sit on the left side. And it's a way of showing respect. If a senior is standing, we get up. If one is tuned in, we recognize the awkwardness of sitting in the presence of a senior. And there's a prana principle. That is, when you're in the presence of a senior, prana rises. So to stand is a natural pranic behavior. And so it aligns with your prana to stand when you're in the presence of someone who's senior, not necessarily, a sannyasi, but someone who's senior, whatever that means. They're different. We went through different gradations of seniority. Standing aligns our physical behavior with this natural energetic shift. Another, don't talk excessively in front of seniors. Blah, 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 blah. There may be a tendency, and if you have if you're one of the persons that have such a tendency, curb it. Excessively in front of a seniors is not to be done. Yawning or stretching in front of anyone, this is considered to be disrespectful. So, commonly if people have to yawn, when you have to yawn, you cover your mouth. And, it's not like a public display of yawning, because it's like, oh, you're boring kind of message. Now, that's not the intended message, but to avoid it. Don't argue or defend yourself or your opinions excessively. You may say something, but succinctly. It depends upon the receptivity. Don't speak casually or familiarly with seniors. Approach seniors to receive their blessings that we discussed at length, and to get advice, not to teach them or argue with them. And with food, seniors eat first. I mean, it's not a stricture kind of rigid thing. It's a principle, and one becomes happy seeing that seniors are eating first. Giving of gifts, this has come up so many times. So we thought, let me make a little special point. It's just a way of expressing respect. It doesn't have to be something big, but ideal. If you contemplate carefully, you're supposing you want to give a gift. There's somebody that's coming to visit you, or something, or relative, or something. Think of something that it's important to them. It would be meaningful to them. It doesn't have to be of value. Just something that they recognize that you considered important to them. I'm going to tell a little Prabhupada story. This is not my personal experience. It was Shruta Kirti Prabhu. And I'll make it short. It's the longer version is really nice. Maybe it was somewhere in between. He was Prabhupada's servant for many years. Many years. Servant meant intimate, up close relationship for day after day after day. He wrote a biography of his time with Prabhupada, and the title of that was, "What's the Problem?" Because Prabhupada would say that many times, something, something, something. What's the problem? Becoming a Krishna's devotee, chanting Hare Krishna. What's the problem? What's the problem? So, that was the title of his book. So this little story was, during one stretch of time, Prabhupada was in India, and his health became very bad. Now, many of you have heard this narration, because I like the story, so you've probably heard it. And for 10 days, he hadn't eaten. He was lying horizontal for 10 days. That's not Prabhupada. He was very active, but he hadn't eaten. His body had become weak. You don't eat in 10 days, your body becomes very weak. And he could hardly speak. He had to, his voice was a whisper. That's not Prabhupada either. So he called Shruta Kirti. He came, put his ear near Prabhupada's mouth, the speaking part of his body, and Prabhupada asked him, "I want you to make some utma." I asked your son if he knows how to make utma. Did he tell you? Yeah, I know how to make utma. Whether he knows it or not, I don't know, but that's what he said. So, Shruta Kirti is not a cook. Some people are cooks, and some people are kind of cooks, and some people are not cooks. He's a not cook at all kind of person. He said, "Sure." It's just Prabhupada's request. He hasn't eaten for 10 days. Can you make some utma for me? Yes. Sure. Jamuna is right in the kitchen, right over there, and and he said, "No, I don't want her to make. I want you." Oh. Okay. He didn't say, "I'm not a cook, she's much better." No ifs, ands, or buts. Just, okay. So he went to the kitchen, and there was Jamuna in the kitchen. And he gave her the good news, because she is as concerned as Shruta Kirti, knowing that Prabhupada had eaten for 10 days. And he said, "Good news. Prabhupada wants me to make utma." And she said, "Oh, great. He taught me personally how to make utma. I can do it." And she said, "No. That's what I said you could make." But Prabhupada said, "No, he wants me to make." And she's like, the queen of the kitchen. And wrote a whole big Jamuna's cookbook. She's like award-winning cookbook. The first vegetarian award-winning cookbook there was. Bestseller and so many things. Okay, I'll help you. And so she did everything, and he did what she said. Cut to this and that and that, the other measured and that. And then they offered the utma, and he brought the bowl of utma and put it by the side of Prabhupada's bed in his weak condition, and just went about some other services that he had to do. And he came back and saw the bowl was just sitting there, untouched. So he asked Prabhupada, you haven't touched the utma? And then Prabhupada touched his heart. The whole purpose was a gift of touching his heart. Because what Prabhupada said was, "I thought that if you made some utma, I would get appetite. But I don't have an appetite." And he wasn't disappointed. He was like touched that, just see what Prabhupada has done. He knows I don't cook, and he wants me to make utma. He doesn't want Jamuna to make utma. He wants me to make utma. Why? Because if you make it, I may get an appetite. You know, somebody doesn't know how to cook and make soup. What's it going to taste like? Probably crummy. I love. You know, like Krishna eating banana peels out of love. So that's a little deviation. The point is, gifts within reason. You give some thought to it. That's devotion. Give some thought to what's meaningful and pleasing and important to another person, and that's the gift. Here's a recent something really recent. Before coming here to St. Louis, I was in Naperville, and while in Naperville, there was a seminar on Vaishnava etiquette, and I presented this, at least part of this, and then Mother Urmila, or Urmila Dasi, was a co-presenter. She's brilliant. PhD in education, and has written several books, and she's a luminary. So one of the things that she had already done, that she has a website that presents it, and I'll share you the website if I remember to do so. Kripamoy, you can remind me to do so. Just send me a text message that to share this website. She calls it careerdharma.com or something like that. So she gave 2 presentations on career dharma, and it's good. And the way that she presents it, I'm not going to repeat what she presents because you can go to that website and check it out yourself. But, you know, young people, I see some young people in the room, and at some point in time, you're going to be considering, you know, like, you know, what am I going to be when I grow up? Kind of question. What's my career going to be? And you know, what's the everyday, at least 5 days of the week, every day, what's my dharma? Career dharma. You know, psychophysical nature, and you know, many other things. You know, and what's going to be pleasing to Krishna that fits that Krishna has gifted me with, XYZ, that will please him, and that I can do for the rest of my life and feel energized and happy and contented, and, you know, not like some people that I know. They didn't choose their career based upon psychophysical nature. They chose their career based upon, you know what? Money, 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 money. And having jobs. So pick a profession that there's lots of, there, and all those jobs are starting to disappear. I mean, starting. But, you know, if Mr. Musk has his way, they're all going to disappear. You're all going to be replaced by robots. And then what? So anyways, what's something that matches your nature and is meant for pleasing Krishna at the same time? Anyway, it's very nice. So I sent her a note saying, I especially valued this, and you know, as I believe it will be meaningful to you, I want to share it with younger generation people that come to me with that kind of question. You know, they don't say, what should I do when I grow up? But as I'm going through my education, what are some of the considerations that I should be making? You know, different ways of asking. That's a nice way of asking the same question. So I'm going to refer them consistently to this website and the 2 videos of what she presented in Naperville. You know, it's a starting point. It's not like lock somebody into something that they don't believe in, or they never heard it before, or whatever. It's just meaningful to her. Meaningful to me, and I know it'll be meaningful to her because she's an educator. She wants to educate. So, when giving gifts, think of something that might touch the heart of the person who you're giving the gift to. It's not, you know, monetary value, it's the gesture. Addressing seniors in Vedic culture. A strict rule to be followed. Seniors should never be called by their first name. Vedic culture. Therefore, Prabhupada taught us, you say Prabhu. Calling senior by name brings them down to our level. It creates a sense of familiarity. Or an underestimate that erodes respect. So somebody that's a friend is, different ways of saying in different languages, but brother and Prabhu and so forth and so on. Only juniors should be addressed by name. That's strict Vedic culture, but it's something to bear in mind as we're going forward in time and trying to be cultured. Here's a nice example from Shastra. And the example from Shastra is Sita. When you see in the background of the painting, this is Ram and Lakshman, and there's Sita, and there's men discussing with Ram and Lakshman in a certain way, and then you see a bunch of ladies surrounding Sita. During their exile, they're with the indigenous tribal people. Now, these people are very nicely dressed, so they don't look exactly like tribal people, but that's okay. The tribe was memorized by the trio's heavenly beauty. Ram with his green grass skin, and Lakshman with milk-colored skin. And the ladies were surrounding Sita. And they asked, "Who are you? Where are you from? Who are these men?" Sita's answer. She didn't say, "I'm the queen." He said, "I'm their servant." Right from Valmiki Ramayana. She referred to Lakshman as my husband's brother, not referring to him by name. Referred to Ram simply as him, pronoun. She did not even use the word my husband, showing deep reverence. She introduced herself not with pride or position, but with humility and devotion. Classic Vedic culture. So now, it's something that's you all know probably, and you should know if you don't already know, but in the West it's not done. You don't point at someone or something. Now, I won't mention the name, but he has the initials DT. He does this all the time. All the time. And then says something nasty. Phew. The culture of no culture. And he's the leader. Yadya Rajarachi Shreshtas. So in Vedic culture, you don't point with the index finger. Instead, you extend your hand. Index finger should never be used to point at anyone, let alone threaten them with it. Like shaking your finger at somebody. It is said that one should not shake or wag their finger. Why? It carries an aggressive energy. When someone points this finger at us, the energy feels concentrated and forceful. It hits us on the subtle level. So what do? Open your hand and gesture with your hand, your whole hand. That's culture, if you need to do that. Or some other things. Those of us that were trained a little bit, we all know, we don't touch object with our feet. You move with your hand. Western is like the culture of no culture, so you just move something other way with your foot. In Vedic culture, you don't do that. You don't open doors with your feet or slam them. Gently. Never kick objects or throw them to others. Don't sit with your legs outstretched towards seniors. And we learned all these things once upon a time. Div, you know all these things. Your mother used to talk. Good for you. Oh, you had a good mother. Okay. Srila Prabhupada often corrected the disciples on subtle matters like these, that etiquette matters. These actions may seem trivial, but what's important is respect. They indicate Like, something, rather than moving something with your foot, it means like there's no respect. And you don't do with your foot. You reach with your hand and touch with your hand. And then there are things that you touch with your right hand and you don't touch with the left hand. That's there's things. There's culture, and then there's the culture of no culture. So it's respect. It's a subset of this whole principle of respect. These things seem subtle or insignificant at first glance, nonsense, but in reality, it's a degree of respect or disrespect from the culture that we grow up in and live by. Okay, guess what? We're going to have a little breakout session. Uh-oh. You have to learn something now. So the discussion is some things, rules of etiquette that you remember or share of situations that you've encountered and what impacted you in the course of your life or course of what you heard or whatever, and impactful messages on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. One more minute. Okay, we're going back to Canto 3, Chapter 29, one of the closing verses of the whole chapter, verse number 33. And before we're done this evening, I'm going to read the purport also. But here's the translation. You can take a look at the Sanskrit because the terms that you see in the Sanskrit, the commentators are going to spend some time expanding on those Sanskrit terms. Therefore, Tasmat, I do not find a greater person than he who has no interest outside of mine, and who therefore engages in and dedicates all his activities and all his life, everything, unto me without cessation. Isn't she graphic? He's sitting on a lion skin with his head right where his feet, like very strange. What to do? Now, there's the worldly ego. Ego from the world, identifying with the divine. So there's the material false ego. And I'm at the center, of course. That's false ego. And then there's things that matter to me. I'm the doer, I'm the enjoyer. When I define myself this way, I operate from false ego. And then there's an alternative. That's the purified ego. And there's the divine, and I'm connected to the divine. I'm the servant or the instrument of the Supreme. The highest stage of human evolution is not dissolving the ego, but connecting it with God. Like, just this morning, I had a 5:30 a.m. call, a Zoom call, Zoom, with China. And, at the end, there was just one of the, the usual kinds of questions. It was when you meet a Buddha, because it was about, the topic was how Krishna Bhagavan, who is the source of bhakti, how his bhakti shakti gives pleasure to Bhagavan. Ladini Shakti and so forth. We had a whole, from Jiva Goswami's wonderful Bhakti Sandarbha. So, this was one of, it's not dissolving the ego, but it's connecting the ego to the Supreme. So there was a question, how do we meet Buddhist people here in China, how do I help them understand, there's something more than dissolving the false ego? How do I go about that? What's your recommendation? We had a nice 15-minute discussion on that topic because it's a nice topic. But for this audience, we don't have to take a close look at Buddhism because it's not so much encroaching on our mindset. It's very clear that the position of happiness. With this verse, there's two words we're going to spend some time with. Akartum, he who does nothing, could mean you're the voidist, do nothing, dissolve your existence. It could mean, for those people, that's what it means, but one who's deprived of the false sense of proprietorship. Isavashamidam sarvam, yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Isha Upanishad. Isha, the Supreme, everything belongs to him. Everything's from him, everything's his, and everything should be engaged in his service. That's false sense of proprietorship. And Samadarshana, that's a nice phrase that's also found in Bhagavad Gita, Pandita Samadarshana, one who sees equally. It doesn't blind equality, it's not blind equality, but rather compassion. We'll hear this nice explanation of how Samadarshana means compassion. We touched on it earlier, now it's going to be expanded. These two words must be understood carefully. Earlier it was stated that we must distinguish between people. That's towards the end of chapter 29. Gradations, and there was this whole long list of gradations. Must be understood carefully because people are on different levels. Some should be given respect, others more respect, and so others still greater respect. Therefore, Samadarshana does not mean blind equality, rather it refers to a person who can show true compassion on the spirit. True compassion is on the spiritual platform. So now you see that in the lower right corner, I'm going to read the purport. That is a nice purport. In this verse, the word Samadarshanath means that he no longer has any separate interest, semicolon. The devotee's interest and the Supreme Personality of Godhead's interest are one. For example, Lord Chaitanya, in the role of a devotee, also preached the same philosophy. He preached that Krishna is the worshipful Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the interest of his pure devotees is the same as his own. Paragraph. Sometimes Mayavad philosophers, due to a poor fund of knowledge, define the word Samadarshanath to mean that a person should see himself as one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is foolishness. When one thinks himself to be one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no question of serving him. When there is service, there must be master. Three things must be present for service: master, servant, and the service. Here it is clearly stated that he who has dedicated his life, all his activities, his mind and his soul, everything, for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord is considered to be the greatest person. Paragraph. Then this other word, akartu, means without any sense of proprietorship. Everyone wants to act as the proprietor of his actions so that he can enjoy the result. A devotee therefore has no such desire, semicolon. He acts because the personality of Godhead wants him to act in a particular way. And that's this career dharma topic. She handled it very well. He has no personal motive. When Lord Chaitanya preached Krishna consciousness, it was not with the purpose that people would call him Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, he preached that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be worshipped as such. A devotee who is a most confidential servant of the Lord never does anything for his personal account, but does everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. It is clearly stated, therefore, in this verse, Mai Sanyasta Karmanaha. The devotee works, but he works for the Supreme. It is also stated, Mai Arpitatmanaha, in this verse. He gives his mind unto me. These are the qualifications of a devotee who, according to this verse, is accepted as the highest of all human beings. So it's a nice conclusion of a nice chapter, Pure Devotional Service. Little summary. All rules and instructions exist to bring us to the same happiness experienced by one whose interests are completely aligned with God. Right now, we are separatists to a greater or lesser degree. We are individualists, egocentrists, egoists. Here is the ideal we must strive for. The ideal becomes attainable when we begin to see the connection of all that exists with the Supreme. God is revealed when we cease to hate and compete with His creation. This is a very important step, and in essence, it is not difficult to attain Him. Vedic culture is so attractive, isn't it? So here's Jiva Goswami's commentary. In the Bhakti Sandarbha, he comments on this particular verse. And here's the summary. That as soon as a person begins to practice pure sadhana bhakti, not mixed sadhana bhakti, but pure sadhana bhakti, at that level one begins to physically feel the presence of God in other living beings and within one's own heart. Very similar to what we heard about deity worship, to the degree that you can see and feel the presence of God within your heart and within the hearts of others. That's deity worship. That's the beginning Kanishta stage, but it's still sadhana, and that the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti should be performed in that way, purifying in that way. If a person does not feel this, if they do not have this distinct sensation, it means they are not in fact engaged in true or pure sadhana bhakti. They're still mixed. That's okay. Mixed is okay. Continue. Such a person needs to go through a certain preliminary stage, karma mishra bhakti, a mixture of karma and bhakti. But we know this definition, Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti. It's without those two. Or at least moving in the direction of without those two. And to move in that direction of without those two, you put one thing in the horse pulls the cart. Not the cart pulls the horse. So what the horse? It's that Krishna should be pleased. To the degree that that's the contemplation, while we're engaged in sadhana bhakti, will come to the stage of pure sadhana bhakti. Exactly. As the Brahma-bhuta verse says. And then devotional service begins. You know the verse? Can you say the verse? Brahma-bhuta prasanatma nasochati nakangsati samak sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate, you obtains mad bhaktim labhate param. So, and then devotional service begins. So what are we doing now? Devotional service in practice with a little mix. More or less, a little mix. But to get to the stage where it's then pure devotional service or pure practice, sadhana bhakti. So Jiva Goswami, to illustrate his point, he tells the story. We all know the story of Magari. The meaning of Magari, when Magari meets Narada, he wants to know, who are you? And Narada wants to know, who are you? And he introduces himself. My name's Magari. My father gave me this name. The name means the enemy of the animals, Agari. Magari, the enemy of mrigas, the enemy of animals. Jiva Goswami cites this story to illustrate that even at the level of sadhana, because he got to that stage through sadhana, where he was either unwilling to harm an ant, that's not where it started, a person immediately begins to feel the presence of God in his own heart and in the hearts of all living beings. So you know the story. I don't need to go through the whole story, but this once upon a time. Narada was passing through the forest and he saw half-killed boar, rabbits, and deer. This was someone who was the hunter that did this because he saw the arrows stuck in their heart, but not killed, but half-killed. And when the hunter saw Narada was interrupting his hunting business, he became angry at Narada. But somehow or another, he addressed this, because he saw him as a sannyasi, his heart calmed down a little bit, and he spoke and acted, at least externally, with some respect, although he's a tribal guy. And the discussion between the two of them took place. And Narada made a request. My dear sir, I know you have to maintain your family, and you maintain your family by killing animals, but you're half killing animals. And there's consequences for killing, and there's greater consequence for half killing, because they undergo pain. And Magari didn't hear that one before. He said, pain? They're animals. And, I derive pleasure. My father taught me how to half kill the animals and get pleasure from seeing them squirm and, go through what they go through when they're half killed. So Narada made a request. Please don't half kill, please full kill. Why? Because they suffer unnecessarily. There's sin for your killing, but it's a greater sin. So you're going to suffer. As they're suffering, you're going to suffer. Oh, really? Because he's in Narada's presence, he's becoming purified by being in Narada's presence. So he's not just dismissing Narada, he's taking his words seriously. So that's all I know. I have a wife, I have children, I have to maintain them. What should I do? And Narada said, well, I can give you a means to take care of them, but you have to do one thing. What's that? Break your bow. Looked at his bow, looked at Narada, looked at his bow, looked at Narada, and broke his bow. The main message is Narada changed his behavior not by condemning him, but by treating him with some respect. At least as a person, you have what he said. Sir, I understand that you're a hunter. You need to live and feed your family somehow, but don't necessarily kill or make the living entities suffer. And as he spoke, the hunter's heart became softer. And he felt understood, not rather condemned. There was no judgment, only compassion and respect. And a nice smile. Although what the man was doing was horrible. So, Jiva Goswami explains, in a little commentary on what Jiva Goswami explains, this is a way to change people's hearts. Compassionate approach rooted in bhakti and understanding can transform the hearts, even the hardest of hearts. The presence of God is not a distant concept. It becomes tangible when our hearts are softened by genuine devotion. So he broke his bow. I will see that your family receives whatever they need. Now, what's Narada going to be, his janitor? Bring his meals to him every day? But he gave that assurance, and you know how it happened. That the hunter did what he did and went and lived with his wife. And when the people in the village found out what happened, this hunter became a gentleman. So then they treated him with respect, and they brought stuff. And they brought so much stuff he had to give it away because it was too much stuff. He couldn't. It was more than well maintained. And Parvat Muni and Narada came, and later he, although very enlivened to see my spiritual master, Narada Muni, you came to visit again. How nice. And he was running from his cottage to greet his spiritual master, but he was having a problem because there were ants in the path. And he didn't want to harm an ant. He became soft. And Parvat Muni said, wow, this is your power, Narada Muni. You transformed this fellow. Nobody taught him, but he naturally understood it was wrong to harm any living entity simply by chanting the holy name and following the instructions of Narada to not harm others. So this is Jiva Goswami's litmus test. What's that? As soon as a person begins to practice pure sadhana bhakti, at that level one begins to physically feel the presence of God in other living beings and within one's own heart. From a cruel hunter to a sadhu. So this is our teaching. This is a conclusion of chapter 29. True faith awakens and is strengthened through Shraddha. We heard this several times. And sadhana, the right kind of sadhana. The presence of God becomes our experience gradually if we're doing it properly and carefully. This inner divine perception is absent. It means faith hasn't fully arisen yet. That's okay. Many of us may be in that position. That's okay. We're not shame on you. It's just that's where we are, and keep going. If one speaks of devotion while criticizing or harming others, real faith and sadhana are missing. Bhakti is not yet practiced at its core. Such individuals need to practice karma mishra bhakti, devotion mixed with material motivation. Kapila says that this can serve as a stepping stone. Nice? Very nice. We're reaching a conclusion. So there's a sadhana stage on the left that's beginning to feel some respect and regard for other living beings, because God is within those other living beings. So I can't look down upon them, I can't hurt them, etc., etc. And then there's the higher stages, bhava and prema. At the level of bhava, a person sees God periodically. At the level of prema, one sees that everyone is a great devotee. How can I offend anyone? That person cannot offend anyone. Conclusion. When we have real faith, everything will come naturally. When we chant the Maha Mantra and associate with devotees, we're working on building a real ego, the ego of a devotee. Akartum, as stated in this particular verse. Nothing belongs to me. I'm acting for the sake of God. There's the the karma ego, attached to enjoying the fruits, pride, harming others, exploit others, no problem. Then there's the useless ego. I just want to go to sleep. I want to get rid of ego altogether. What does that person turn into? A person wants to be liberated, has the ego of a completely useless person. They say, oh, how can I do something? I can't. I'm so fallen. I'm so fallen. I'm so fallen. I can only eat prasadam. I must be saved. Please pick me up and bring prasadam, please. So now the right ego, those are obviously extremes, but the right ego, the servant, such a servant ego will tell us how we should act, or scripture and Guru Sadhu Shastra will tell us. Respecting others and letting others go ahead doesn't mean that one does not have dignity. One feels that they can give something to people and they give whatever they have to give to people. That's the charity principle. But we must remember that this is not for myself. It's not mine. I'm acting as a servant of God. I belong to God. I'm not separate from Him. There's this phrase, again, arpita manas. I've given myself to Krishna. That's this final verse. So that's the servant mood. My mind is given to Krishna. I'm given to Krishna. Arjuna doesn't say, oh, I'm too humble, I can't fight. He wants to understand Krishna's position. There's this acting in the mood of being a servant. Don't get puffed up by, I'm a servant and you're not. We don't do that. Become proud of the fact to become a Vaishnava or some level of attainment and practice of bhakti as a Vaishnava, and then look down upon others. That's just first standard of pride that is being warned against by Kapila Dev. Arising from pride, people may commit new offenses after becoming Vaishnavas and sink even deeper. Final. Take a deep breath. We're going to cross the finish line. Some rules. Some rules may not seem so important, and we may not be able to follow all of them. But to the degree that we can, it adds beauty to our life. Now, what this statement is for, a different audience than the audience here. Although, you're from different parts of India, and different parts of India have different procedures. And I mean, here's from my perspective. When sitting in a temple, it's japa retreats. Because often we have the japa retreats on a Saturday or a Sunday. And when you're having a japa retreat on a Saturday or Sunday, there's a whole string of people that come into the temple on a Saturday or Sunday and do whatever they do because it's part of their culture. It's nice to note that there are different ways, and sometimes it's really funny. Like some people have this thing that they stand on one foot and hold their one foot to their right leg, and with their palms folded, they stand like that for a few minutes. Okay. And some people stop, palms folded, turn around in a circle 3 times, and then stop, bow, then go to the altar. And so it's okay. I mean, whatever culture people are from, it's fine. And then, and then they have their kids and they tell their kids what to do, what not to do, and they go over to the Charnamrita bowl and take some Charnamrita, it's like, and then stand at the doorway before they leave. We're all there sitting there chanting japa, and it's like we just don't even exist. You know what I mean? Like, we don't exist because it's the deity. That's it. And some people are like, huh? So it's a very nice thing to do. I'll say 2 nice things to do. It's a very nice thing to do when events are like that. We're having a seminar or a retreat or whatever. There's a hospitality person at the door. They greet the guests, whisper, so the guests know what's going on. It's respect, a kind of respect. And then we have japa retreats, at least some places. It's usually a lady, and they have a set of beads. They explain to them what they're doing. They ask them politely, would you like to chant with us for some time? And sometimes they sit down and they chant japa with us for, 3 minutes or 5 minutes or maybe even 10 minutes. The whole family sits down, the kids and the whole thing. And they chant japa for a few minutes. And they feel respected. They feel different than if they just walked into, did what they do. And it's fine that they do what they do. It's fine that they come and do what they do. And it's also fine if they go a little bit further. That's bhakti. They have bhakti at a certain stage. And then how to fan that spark of bhakti to bring it to another stage. And sometimes, in addition to having japa beads, they have a little book. They just give them a little book. They don't ask for a donation. They just give them a little book. To say, based upon their interaction, so they understand something about the person. So they have a variety of little books. It's just courtesy, culture. But many of us were raised in different cultures, making these standards difficult to follow initially. However, the goal is not rigid conformity, but refined consciousness. Darshan. Coming before the deity for darshan every day is a form of communication. The Dharma Shastra explains that darshan is an important opportunity to get in touch with the divine and receive blessings. During darshan, we want Krishna to see us so that we can come in contact with him. No, it's often thought of the opposite. Go to see, we see the deity. Want Krishna to see us. Come with that mood. Not proud, but humble. During darshan, there's an arti. And what's the meaning of the arti? You are Govinda, and you are Govindam Adipurusham, Tamaham Bhajami. I am the Purusha, but not Adipurusha. I am not at all Govinda, but Godas. In essence, we come and say, here I am, but you are God, and I want to come in touch with you. I want my heart to be cleansed through this contact with you. So the internal meditation purpose, besides, there's another purpose, and you punya. Come before the deity so often, every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock or whatever it is, people, whatever they do, and they get pious credits. And what do they want those pious credits for? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma, at least Kama. Dharma, Artha, Kama. So this is the bhakti perception. When we offer things, this should be with another list of what you should do, but offer not with one hand, unless you're holding a bell in the other hand, but you offer things with both hands. It's not just for etiquette, it explains the prana. Life energy resides in both hands. When we give something, we're not merely handing an object, we're imbuing that thing with our vital energy. We want to give a tiny bit, a particle, a little piece of our energy, life energy to another person. So besides the deity, just giving gifts. When something is given with both hands, it becomes much more valuable. Kind of hard to distribute prasadam in both hands. I don't know how to do that. Another detail, this is the final. In India, it's not customary to shake hands. It's West, it's like, that's really common. Shake hands. The gesture means something different. Because if you're carrying a dagger in one hand, you shake with your right hand. You got a dagger in your left hand. It shows you're unarmed, at least the extended hand. Greetings are done either with folded hands or by touching the other person's hands with both of our own hands, as it's shown below. There's a transfer of vital energy with this gesture. Custom embracing. When we embrace someone, we also transfer vital energy, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embracing Sanatana Goswami. He liked. We share our life force with them. Ta-da! We crossed the finish line. I think I have to rearrange the sequence of those slides, but that's okay. And again, it's nice to see so many persons assembled. I don't know when I'll be coming again, but we'll see you all again sometime. And hopefully more refined, more cultured, more respectful, more open-hearted, and ready to receive Krishna's blessings and ready to give those blessings that you have received. Comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Like you said that in India and like the Western like part, like it's wrong to like point to other people with like the index finger. Is
Yeah,
it like
this one. You know
Yeah.
that one.
is it okay to point like objects with the index finger?
Is it okay to point at objects? Well, it's better. You can. It's not like someone's going to chop your hand off. But it's better. This other. It's just it's more respectful. And we see God. If one wants to get to the point where one can see God everywhere, you want to be respectful. Culturally, that's better. You can still indicate an object that way. Supposing please bring the chair. You can point to the chair, or you can gesture with your hand. So the better. It's just once this becomes something that you do, just like you eat with your right hand. Are you left-handed? No. Some people are left-handed. You learn to eat with your right hand. Even if you didn't do it before. When you receive things with your right hand, it's just training. Left hand is for dirty things, and the right hand is for clean things. And don't mix them up. So it's just by practice, you gesture, you point at something with your hand. It just becomes human. It just becomes second nature. Real simple.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Right behind you. Look at this.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So in the presentation, I saw there was like two types of devotees.
You're mumbling.
So in the presentation, I saw there were like two types of devotees,
Yeah.
like Akartum and Samadarshana. Pretty sure. Yeah.
Samadarshana.
Yeah. So which type of devotee is like greater?
What type of devotees are greater? Pure devotee. Now that verse that has those two terms is discussing, or Kapila Deva is explaining the nature of pure devotees. So not yet pure devotees, they have a lesser degree of those characteristics. Then a pure devotee has those characteristics fully. So it's a matter of degree. So then you have to decide.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Two nice questions. Here's another nice question back here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, firstly, thank you so much for such a beautiful presentation over the last few days on respect. I think as devotees, we have to, I always thought respect was such a basic thing, but after your presentations, there's a lot more to learn about respect, and as devotees, I think we have to go to a much, much higher level. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Maharaj, my question, over the last few days and also from today, you emphasized the point of respecting elders
Yes.
quite a bit.
Yes.
And as a youngster, I wanted to know, because most of the people are my elders here, but sometimes we see situations that maybe the elders are in a disagreement, or sometimes even to the point of disrespect amongst each other. But how do we process that? I know there's nothing much we can do because it's not correct to correct our elders.
Your question is not how to do something. Your question is how to internalize or how to process what I see.
Yes, so that we do not develop disrespect towards the elders.
Yeah. It's Supposing someone is standing in the shower and they're not yet clean. We don't fault them because you're not yet clean, because they're standing in the shower. You're becoming clean. Similarly, so these elders that are amongst some, or however many, there's some dissension. So, but they're undergoing the process that's going to make themselves clean, like showering or bathing. So we respect that. You recognize their position and respect that they're undergoing that which is going to make themselves clean. Now, then, what to do? Is there something that I, as the junior to these senior persons, can say or do or carry as a quality that can ease the tension or lubricate the situation so that they move on rather than being stuck in a conflict or dissension or something. And you may not be able to do anything, but you carry that thought, that desire, and maybe one day a little light will go on and Krishna, the super soul, will give you some indication. Here's something I can do. And one of the ways to get to that place is continue to demonstrate your respect, so that although you're a junior, when you speak, they'll listen. Maybe more likely to listen if they see here's a junior, but they're an elevated person. Like Prahlad in speaking as he spoke, he's just a little boy. And you're not just a little girl, but you may be junior, but then you carry yourself with the right desire, respect as core, and then speak pleasingly, or don't speak at all. So there are different ways to speak pleasing. We discussed them. You live that way. Never lose respect, because that's core, fundamental, foundational. And they're undergoing purification, as am I. I'm sure I do things that, the younger generation see that I do, and they go like, whoa, what's with this girl? You probably do stuff like that. So, but I'm trying, so they're trying to their capacity or whatever their position in their spiritual trajectory, that's what they're attempting to do. Hi, Bob.
So you mentioned how when we are giving gifts we should use two hands, but how do we receive that gift?
How do you receive compliments?
No, when you're giving something, give it but when
Oh. Well, that's a good question. Generally speaking, you receive things with our right hand. And it depends on the circumstance. If someone is extending something with both hands, we may want to receive with both hands. But right hand, please.
Thank
Commonly. Nice. He's got a radar.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful week with the beautiful lectures. As Sarvakanti was mentioning, the respect thing is so basic that we need to understand in order to become a devotee or in order to be a good devotee. Not just pleasing for others, but pleasing for Krishna also. So, and a lot of new people attended these lectures and they also were connecting. I could see this topic is so appealing to a larger set of people than just practicing devotees. So thank you very much. My question, Maharaj, today in the first part of the presentation, you were talking about the 5 mistakes.
Yes.
I think one of them is lack of determination.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes we are asked in our relationship with other devotees to perform certain service, and it is not so much lack of determination that I don't want to do that service,
It's
but
time
more
management.
I feel I am not qualified for that.
Oh, okay.
So in that situation, I mean, I feel when I'm looking at that list of things under lack of determination, it looks like it's pointing at me that maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I'm truly feeling from inside that I'm not qualified. So how do you handle that? How does one handle it?
You know how I like to answer questions like this? It depends. There are some things that you should just do anyways, and some things that you should offer an explanation, and some things you just, you wait, because it's not just the person who is asking, and behind the person ultimately is Krishna is asking. So you, in your relationship with Krishna, I'd like to please help me become qualified. So you move in the direction because Krishna is calling through that person. And that's a relationship. And that's bhakti yoga. Or, I gave this example. I'm repeating something you heard me express. Somebody somewhere was requested by some senior devotees to be a speaker at an event where there's other senior devotees, and they're not a speaker type. At least that's how they perceive themselves. I'm not qualified. It's not my gift from Krishna. But somebody else sees it. That's why they were invited as a speaker. So this devotee wanted to know, what should I do in this circumstance? Because this is what I'm feeling. And in this particular case, not all cases, so that's why it depends, but you're not pushing yourself into a big people forum. You're being asked by big people to be a co-speaker in that forum. You're not pushing yourself. You're being requested. So I suggest that you take it in the mood of serving your superiors and ultimately serving Krishna by giving whatever it is that you have received, because you can't give more than what you've received. You can give what you've received, what you've heard and what you've received. Received means not just a script, but bhakti, and to whatever you receive. So you do that as a service. So in the mood of service, you can say, yes, although I'm not feeling qualified, I'm being requested. So it depends on the circumstance and details. But and when you do something in the mood of service, something happens. You feel a connection with the higher authority, Krishna, ultimately. There's somebody in China that they're being asked to be in charge of their training and education department, and they're not feeling qualified. What to do? So after about a month and a half of back and forth, they've accepted, and now they want to know any tips, because you're both an educator and you've been involved in leadership roles. Any recommendations for me? And I said the same thing. Focus on the mood and the mission of our founder Acharya and predecessors of our founder Acharya. Cultivate that mood, that meditation, and move in that direction. And Super Soul and the Vaishnavas that you have Sangha with, you'll get answers to questions of what to do in this and that and the other situation. If you come across something that's like really puzzling you, Communicate. We'll discuss. So that's a second example. So a person that we're feeling I'm not qualified, genuinely feeling I'm not qualified. Which one of us are qualified? Who's going to raise their hand? Looking at our president over here, or anybody else, the cook or the host of this program, or whatever. Who's feeling qualified? No one's going to volunteer. If they are, there's another name for such a person besides qualified. So there's service, and that service can help us become purified and thus qualified, in the right mood, although not qualified, or feeling not qualified. But that's part of the qualification, is to feel humble, genuinely humble, not falsely humble, genuinely. What did Prabhupada feel about the mission that he was given? Read the Markandeya Bhagavad Dharma. I don't know why you've sent me here, but you must have some mission. So if you want me to dance, make me dance, make you dance as you like. Servant mood. And then you step off the boat and take the next series of steps.
Thank you, Mark.
Little by little. Here he is, the radar man.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I have two questions.
Two questions.
Yeah.
Not three?
First, I want to thank you for that. I saw the slide which you were referring to, the prana energy when you get up. I was so happy to see that. I just took the picture of that so I can have the detail explained to anyone. So far, I didn't know that much detail, but thank you for that. My question is, so when we, like 50 years before, when we grow, even the society, the school where we go, everything was like helping us to learn our culture. So even at home, but now, even in India or here, everywhere is changed, a lot of things. So this now even for us, we forgot a lot of things what we saw today in the thing. So it was very nice to recollect all that. I was so happy to know. Even I forgot few things. Because we come, so we come to
keep it short.
So we come to a point saying that do whatever is convenient or comfortable for you. Sometimes that's what comes, as a priority. So in that case, how do we process or do this, follow this few things, or needed to be follow the culture?
Your question is as clear as mud. Let me say what I think you're saying, because I lost, I'm regaining, I'm grateful. Now, how do I make decisions going forward in time? And to how fastidious should I be with the rules and the standards and the procedures versus what's comfortable for me?
Yeah. Convenient, comfortable.
It's the same for all of us. My body is born in a different place than yours. And my training was different than yours. But just like what he just said, things that I've said, my mother taught me such things. It's kind of universal. So don't stay with what's comfortable. Get a little not too much, but reasonably uncomfortable, knowing you're headed in the right direction. Guru Sadhu Shastra kind of right direction. And wholesome guides and wholesome examples, and gently move in the right direction. Little baby steps in the right direction. That's my recommendation. And, the authority for that is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because there's one of the many things that he wrote I like, and this is, I'll say it. You've probably heard me say it 100 times. Progress is a series of small steps in the right direction. You've heard me say that before. So what's the right direction? And what's a small step? So a small step is that where you can sustain. And then you sustain it because it's how you live your life. But you're heading in the right direction. Progress, a series of small steps. So for your progress is restoring what you had and what's not, became forgotten. For some of the rest of us, it's like learning ABC. Like this example of Brahmananda and offering obeisances. So it's not comfortable, but do it anyways. Because there are certain standards that Prabhupada requested of his followers, and I mentioned it, in different ways at different times. Paying obeisances when you see a Vaishnava at the beginning of the day. This is in our temple life, but it's a principle that you find principles that not just you're comfortable with, but principles that are progressive and heading in the right direction, authorized by Guru Sadhu Shastra, and you take steps in that direction. And keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't become complacent. Don't become proud. Guard against the contamination of internal, complacency or internal pride. Just stay humble and keep going. That's what to do. Little steps in the right direction.
Sure.
Next.
So the next one is, so we have Guru Sadhu Shastra guidance instructions for our protection. So is this, now we have this additional element of seeking blessing as an...
Well, that's Guru Sadhu Shastra also. It's not another.
It's
According to Guru Sadhu Shastra, we do. Don't get confused. Don't get complicated. Stay simple.
Thank you, Maharaj. That's it.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, I have two questions.
Two.
So, yeah, the first one is Maharaj. It is about speech.
About?
Speech.
Speech.
Yes. So I see many people tend to talk in a joking way.
Yeah, I like to joke too. You've noticed.
And it actually disturbs a lot of the principles. And I mean, the intent and, just the mood, everything. So I just feel that is not appropriate, but I see so
Depends
many
on circumstance.
do that.
When there's the right relationship, it's
Repeatedly do
okay.
that.
When it's the right relationship, it's okay. If everything is straight-faced and straight-laced, and that's it. And where's intimacy? Look at Krishna and his activities with the Gopas and the Gopis and his mother and father, and so that's a standard. If you want, to restore, there's another option. aspire for Vaikuntha. And then everything is. But at least Lord Chaitanya's associates are introduced to this position of spontaneous love. What do you think? Is there such a thing? And is it inviting or not inviting? There is such a thing. Is it not inviting? One of my, you remember Kirti Dave? You remember him? He's a very, very close associate of Hridayananda Maharaj, and he had, yeah, a very happy devotee. So one of the things he used to say, like again and again, Sridham, when there was a wrestling match, the cowherd boys would wrestle. Sridham, Radharani's elder brother, Sridham, was always matched with Krishna, and Sridham would always win. So Krishna had to carry him on his shoulders. And Sridham would say, "Oh, what kind of big man are you?" They're boys, you're wrestling. "What kind of big man are you? You always lose." And he would laugh, and turn his head, and then tilt his head back and laugh. And that's the kind of loving affection amongst the residents of Vrindavan with Krishna. And Krishna likes. Krishna likes the haughtiness of Radharani more than he likes the obedience of Chandravali. No, but one has to have the adhikar, right? You can't just go telling Krishna, "What kind of big man are you?" But, there's an intimacy that goes with very close, loving relationships. So allow for that. And if there's a mood like that of somebody that has culture and taste, and when humor is appropriate and when it's not. So honor the person if they have that proper taste. Honor the behavior, not just the person, if they have that acumen, that qualification. And for you, that you're not feeling so comfortable in that atmosphere, that's to be respected also. So then here we are. There's variegatedness in personalities in the Sangha of devotees. So when someone is feeling and it's appropriate, their behavior is appropriate, because the purpose is a loving relationship, and Krishna should be pleased, it's fine, and for you it's fine. So allow for variegatedness.
Thank you. So the second question is, Maharaj, it is pertaining to the Bhakti Yoga as opposed to being respectful and nice to everyone, and
Sattva gun as opposed to Shuddha Sattva gun.
So I have this impression that at least for myself, I feel like because when it is relationships, how much I am truthfully actually addressing with true emotion, or it is more getting into sense gratification. So it feels like I want to stay with more my chanting and that process.
Fine.
Than involve in
Okay.
And it
You have my full endorsement. Blessings.
So yeah, just yeah, I would like to be nice, but I just feel like
You like you
being
like privacy.
being
It's fine.
I mean, because I've never heard um, all the things like treat a guest and I mean, yes, I would love to. At the same time, I will have my own doubts as to whether what I better rather do.
Okay. For you to be in that conundrum is okay. My overall response to both of these questions is never depart from respect. Or positively, always stay situated in the shelter, like this umbrella example, of respect and blessings from seniors that they may not be like me. They may be like me or may not be like me, but they're seniors, and seek their blessings as you're kind of doing right now, and I'm ready to give blessings, and feel protected, feel safe. And then while others are walking around the rain and getting wet, that's okay. It's okay too. They may like the rain. It's okay. Allow for diversity and be happy with it. Be respectful. Where there's diversity, be respectful. Especially when the core, at the heart level, is that I want that Krishna will smile. I mean, that's for a moment to consider the different questions that were asked this evening. And they're different voices from different persons with different moods. And that's fine. There's diversity. And the purification is Krishna's at the center and wanting to see that Krishna is pleased. That's all. We're on the right track. Okay. We'll take one more question and then we're going to end. There's one last question. You get the last question.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful sessions. It is said that in everyone lies Paramatma. Sometimes knowingly or unknowingly we hurt by actions or words. Later we repent, we did a mistake, we did wrong, we should have not done like that.
Yeah.
So how to overcome from it, or
how to do, what's the question? How to?
Not commit them, or to correct it.
Your own feelings when people say do something harsh? How to process those feelings? That's
yes,
your question?
Yes.
Several things. Separate the behavior or speech from the person. There's this Atma, and there's the coverings of Atma, body and mind. So, and there's parts like the body, the mouth part of the body can say something that's they didn't learn the Madhusamhita message. Speak the truth pleasingly, and never speak falsity. So they haven't learned that one, and for such a person, it's unfortunate. And so don't fall prey to either extreme, either feeling ill towards the person, or rather than feeling compassion for the person that has that behavior, because there may be something inside that person that's a hurt that they experienced, and now they're acting from that place of hurt. And say, the victim becomes the perpetrator. It's very common. Very common. So you look at that person and you respect the person, and then the behavior is coming from maybe bad association, maybe someone abused them and now they're being abuser, that someone spoke harshly to them and now they're being harsh to others, from a place of hurt. So pray for them, wish them well, and then consider what can I do to be part of the solution to that hurt that they're feeling and therefore speaking or doing. Now, I may not have an answer to that question, but if I have that question, then I can, Super Soul may open some doors. If not at that moment, at some point in your life, at some point down the road, you may see that person and you see their wreck from a series of harsh speech to others, and they're in a miserable condition. So you may be in a position to say something then or do something then. So be patient, but don't depart from the core character that is something that you wish to have. You wish others had also. You model that which you wish others to have. Teach others by your character and your conduct. And I'm a little person. What can I do in the world that's got so many people that are damaged individuals? What can I do? You have to have someone, and a number of someones is better than someone. That's a model, an example of proper behavior, proper conduct, proper speech, and the purpose behind it to please Krishna. So cultivate that internally, and what's inside comes outside, including your feelings. Forgive and forget. Okay, we're going to end.